It's been 4 years and this is my last chance to say it. Forensics is beautiful and the people around it unique, but this culture is dying and we need to fix it. So let's start by talking about things that we never say. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be an actress. I remember my parents constantly telling me that people like me simply didn't make it in Hollywood. But you see, I taught myself that regardless of where I came from, I was gonna be an actress. And nothing was gonna stop me. Because you see, I was American. You see, I didn't have any money. And I didn't need anyone to tell me it was gonna be easy. I just needed it to know that it was gonna be possible. They tell me I'm not really Mexican, as if my Latina could be determined by the way that my hips move. You see, I can't really dance, but it doesn't mean that I can't feel the beat of the cumbia move as it moved in my mom's heart and in her house. Speech and debate in high schools and universities tends to conjure up this image and stereotype of studious, even geeky white straight boys in competition. But now more than ever, this is becoming more and more out of date as more Latinx students start to compete within these competitions. I love your speech. It really touched me. But you see, suggestion. Maybe you should roll your R's more. I'm sorry, I just don't really know the Mexican language. I love forensics. And for 8 years of my life, forensics has given me the creative outlet and spotlight I've always wanted to advocate for messages that are dear to me. But even within this activity that claims to empower the voices of many and call out injustices, it tends to block them out as well. For many Latinx individuals like me, forensics gives us the voice to speak out and demand that our messages to be heard. However, when judges' ballots are riddled with commentaries based on portrayals of stereotype narratives linked to our identities, critiquing us in terms of what it means to perform the Latinx identity, our messages, our stories, and the way we want to tell them, they become silenced. And it's time to start calling that out. So through the poetry, Farewell Forensics by Heidi Audi, Chingona by Leticia Ortiz, Latin American takes on the debate floor stage the article by GLENYZ Pereira and ballots that I received throughout my 4 years of competing in forensics. This is a program because my story should deserve to be heard, but also to be told in my own voice. You see, I got my first audition when I was 15. I remember that the director asked me if I could say my lines more Latina. So I was like, oh, so you want me to say it in Spanish? She's like, no. In English, but sound more Latina. I remember looking at her and I told her, well, I'm Latina, so isn't that enough? Don't I sound Latina? She looked at me, I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna move on, bye. They say I'm not really Mexican, as if my grito wasn't authentic, as if I had to prove that I can keep up a conversation in Spanish. You see, my identity is stripped of grammatical errors, told that I'm not Mexican because I can't speak Spanish just as perfectly as every other Mexican. You see, nationally, Latin American students make up 1/4 of all speech and debate students in this activity. And it's a mere number beyond representation because we share stories that are important to our community, such as mental health provision, the abuse and cases against migrant workers, and racial profiling. I feel that you and that fun character you have in your piece, I feel you should just add a more heavy Mexican accent. You just don't sound Latina enough. You see, I never brought forth the issue because it's easy to talk about failure of quitting every single speech. When I saw the same face gestures, the same facials, I started to realize that forensics is teaching me how to not be myself. You see, not to have these heart-wrenching stories for 10 equal minutes and telling you all these stories, the same gestures, the same expressions that never felt real because nobody's were. It started to become something that not nameless white men were calling us out for. But if not, it started to become something that was part of the system we're in. You see, it took me most of the car ride to realize that when she told me to sound more Latina, she was asking me to speak broken English. Anyways, as you can tell, I probably didn't get the job. But after every audition, I started realizing I didn't really get a lot of them because I didn't want to be pregnant chola number 2, the sassy shoplifter, or the immigrant woman that happens to get pulled over. You know, these stereotypes were so far from the truth. When I'm asked if I'm anything but Mexican, I'm giving the sorry, you just don't look Mexican. You don't sound independent, chigona, depressive. No, because I'm Mexican. Because my pocha ass has had to work so I don't live through any struggle. And just because I'm not a dream student doesn't mean I'm not a dreamer. You see, we internalize racism and the narratives that are behind it. Maybe if you didn't sound so angry and you didn't alienate your audience, people would actually be more willing to listen to your story. Try to be a little more valid with your argument next time. Because you see, forensics is a little bit more than that. I wish I could count the number of times that I was told I was throwing away my career for competing with another woman. You see, I had to refrain with, you're too catty, too aggressive, too bossy, smile more, stop being such a bitch. But if you see the issues that we don't talk about when we make up more than 5% of the population, but you see, if you're no good, nobody listens to you. But if you are, then you have to give up glory for truth. You complain in your piece about how you're told to behave more Latina, but actually I feel that by you not having an accent, it takes away from your advocacy. So it makes you feel and make you less believable as being a Latina. So just stop being so angry and smile more in your piece. You see, whenever I didn't fit the stereotype of what a Latina looks like, it was frustrating. Constantly hearing that we're not looking for the diverse cast, or she's just too racially ethnic. Unfortunately, we already casted our Latino role. You see, so I started to straighten my hair into submission, didn't go out into the sun because I didn't want to be too brown for these roles. I constantly would try to lose weight. I would buy more and more expensive clothes just so that people wouldn't say I was too unsophisticated, too brown, too fat to be playing all these characters because my identity became this obstacle. You see, sometimes I'm too American to be Mexican and too Mexican for the whites. I'm bicultural but not assimilated. You see, my skin is tangled up in the identities of what a Mexican should be in the first place. But who knows what a Mexican should be in the first place? You see, forensics for 4 years has given me this creative outlet that I am grateful for. And for all my fellow Latinx who still have time left in this activity, my advice is never let anyone talk down what your story should be. Give your topics the passion that they deserve. And don't let anyone tell you less and that your message isn't important.